Hey everyone, Sumo Spiffy here. Aki 2024 is over and Onosato climbed out of what, for him, were the ashes of a subpar performance to run over the field and claim the title. We'll talk more about that in the tier list recap. For now, it's time to make a Banzuke. Before we start, real quick, Yuri is working on two new pieces of merch, one inspired by Onosato's championship and promotion to Ozeki, and the other by Takakeisho's retirement. We're looking to have the Takakeisho one out first, but in any case, if things stay on track, you should be able to get both before the start of the November Basho. Okay, now for the Banzuke. We start with some math, which is pretty simple. We subtract each wrestler's losses from their wins, then move them up or down that many slots. Winning records get positive numbers, so they go up. Losing records get negative numbers, so they go down. That creates our starting point from which we can make us a Banzuke. Alright, math time! Okay, that's the math completed. We're gonna start at the very top, but we're gonna get into some interesting moves we gotta figure out really quickly. For you Banzuke veterans, you'll know what I'm about to say, but for the newer people, Yokozunas don't move, so even though Takerufuji didn't fight, he's gonna stay in position, so he's Yokozuna 1 East. Ozeki, who were already at the rank, get sorted by the number of wins that they had. So Kotozakura and Hoshoryu each had 8, so they're going to stay in the same relative order. So Kotozakura is going to not move, Hoshoryu is going to not move. But Onosato, we know he's going to get promoted to Ozeki. He had his 13 wins, he only needed 12, he got the Yusho, he's definitely going to go up. But anyone who's new to one of these ranks gets put at the back of the line. There are exceptions in certain ranks in certain cases, but basically, because he's the new Ozeki, he goes to the back of the line. Now he goes on the west side because Takerufuji is on the east and there's no one on the west to balance him out. So when they do the Sanyaku, what they do is they make sure that even as you go down the line, they have equal numbers on each side to the greatest degree possible. In this case, since there's one Yokozuna and 3 Ozeki, the last Ozeki gets put on the west and they just leave the east slot blank. That's normal, that's how they do it. This is how the Yokozuna and Ozeki are going to look. Sekiwake, Kirishima, so he didn't get back to Ozeki, so he's got to make a new Ozeki run. He's kind of on one now. If he gets 13 wins in November, they'll probably push him back up. But in this case, he had his 12 wins. He's also the only incumbent Sekiwake. There were 4 of them, and all of them except for Kiri left the rank. So he's just going to go to Sekiwake 1 East by default. And then Daisho, he's going to move up to fill the slot. So if you do it mathematically, so I've got these guys in an order that isn't purely mathematical. If you want to get really specific, Daisho, he was K1 East, right? So he was 8 and 7, he would go up 1 rank, so he would go here. Well, Wakamoto Haru was 11 and 4 down at Maegashira 3 East. 11 and 4, 11 minus 4 is 7, so he would go up 7 ranks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mathematically, that's higher than Daisho, but there's almost no way that they're going to leave Daisho at Komusubi, no promotion despite his winning record, and bring up a guy from Maegashira to take that Sekiwake slot. You can basically count on Daisho is going to be the one to move up to Sekiwake, and then we got to figure out who's going to be the new Komusubi. So wait, are there going to be 4 Komusubi? No, there's definitely not. We have 4 guys who mathematically move above this Komusubi line. So Wakamoto Haru, like we said, from 3, he goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is Waka M. Waka Takakage, from way down here at 7, he goes up 9. So he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's Waka T. Shodai, from 4, goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's Shodai. And then Oho from Maegashira 2 is going to go up 3. So we'll do this off to the side here. 1, 2, 3. So that's Oho. So if you look at the order that they're in, he's number 1, Wakamoto Haru. Waka Takakage is number 2. Shodai's number 3. Oho is number 4. For simplicity, I stuck them in the Komusubi slots in the correct order. If you have made Banzukes a lot and you think that the mathematical difference is going to matter, take that into account, but I don't think it's going to mean too much of a difference here. So what are they going to do? Are they going to have more than 2 Komusubi? They have to have at least 2, minimum. Are they going to open up another Komusubi slot? Well, why do they open up new Komusubi slots? Why are there sometimes 2 and sometimes more? What you generally need is to have guys who are locked in at Komusubi who can't move, and then have an absolutely undeniable argument to be moved into Komusubi yourself. So like going 10 and 5, 11 and 4, something like that at Maegashira 1, maybe Maegashira 2 East. Something where just keeping you in the Maegashira ranks would be completely untenable and unfair. In this case, we don't really have that. Wakataka Kage is coming up from Maegashira 7. Shodai 4 East, 10 and 5. If he goes up to Maegashira 1 East, that's +3, that's okay. Oho, if he were to go to 1 East with a 9 and 6, that's okay. So nobody really has a tremendous argument for being pushed into Komusubi except Wakamoto Haru, and I think it's pretty fair to assume that he's going to go to Komusubi 1 East. Now, the real question here is, are they going to do Wakataka Kage or Shodai for the second slot? Well, because Shodai had that Joy schedule, he had all of the Sanyaku opponents, and Wakataka Kage didn't, they are most likely going to put Shodai into the Komusubi slot. On the one hand, it's kind of mind-blowing that he did this. On the other hand, I predicted he was either going to suck ass or he was going to go like 11 and 4 and drive everybody crazy. And he was one improved Oho away from doing exactly that. So, hey, go Shodai, I guess. Let's see what you do next time. 3 and 12 or 12 and 3. Those are probably the only options. We're not going to talk about that now. For the moment, we're going to assume Shodai, because of his schedule, is going to get pushed to Komusubi 1 West. Wakataka Kage is not going to get a Komusubi slot, neither is Oho. So for the moment, let's move Wakataka Kage to 1 East and Oho to 1 West. Now, what do we think about that? I think that probably isn't going to happen. Oho also had the Sanyaku schedule, and to move a guy from outside the Joy, outside those top 16 guys, to move him ahead of someone who was in the Joy and really under-promote that guy in the Joy, I'm not convinced they're going to do that. So let's push Oho to 1 East and Wakataka Kage to 1 West. Now we've got Hiradoumi to think about. Hiradoumi was 7 and 8 at Komusubi. Now there was a thing called Joy preference. If you were in that top 16, you would get significant preference in placement on the Banzuke. They've kind of stopped doing that for the Maegashira portion of the Joy, but the Sanyaku guys coming out do still tend to get a little bit of favoritism. Now, that doesn't mean they won't over-demote a guy who's coming down from Komusubi. They've done that in the recent past when it would have been unthinkable previously. So Hiradoumi could get bumped back. But Wakataka Kage, again, because he was outside that top 16, had an easier schedule, or what's perceived to be an easier schedule, he is more likely to get pushed back to Maegashira 2 East. Again, he had quote-unquote easier schedule, definitely a lower ranked one. He's still going up 5 ranks. That's not a ton for 12 and 3, but it's definitely within the historical ranges. And there's nothing wrong with starting to push the other guys back. So let's just start bumping dudes. Ura, we push him from 2 East to 2 West, so he gets 2.5 ranks on 9 and 6. That's pretty normal, that's fine. Now we've got a question of what to do with Churanoumi. So what looks like is going to happen is we've got to choose between Churanoumi and Atami Fuji being at 3 East and 3 West. It does look like they should both be at Maegashira 3. Well, in the past, it would definitely be Atami Fuji at Maegashira 3 East because he was in the Joy, he had the Sanyaku schedule, and moving him to 3 West would be an over-demotion. And over-demoting guys in that position, especially in preference of a guy who was outside of the Joy, would be unthinkable. Now, I'm inclined to stick with that idea. Atami gets his 1-rank demotion, he goes to Maegashira 3 East, but it's not just because I think they'll prefer him over Churanoumi. It's that I'm not 100% sure Churanoumi will even land a 3 West. That's because, like I said, the Sanyaku guys do sometimes get a little bit of preference. And because Chura is only a half rank ahead of Abi and Abi was a Sekiwake, I think it's very plausible they actually push Abi ahead of Chura, even though this would under promote Chura even more. So now he's only getting 3.5 ranks with a 10 and 5 record. Because in the recent past they've been dealing with a lot of guys getting over promoted into the Joy, and maybe they want to limit those rises a little bit, this isn't that situation, so that makes it a lot more plausible for Chura to end up ahead of Abi. Hey, Chura earned those ranks, give him those ranks. You don't have to prefer Abi ahead of him. Abi is getting precisely the correct emotion on Maegashira 4 East, and even though they've shown some preference for the Sanyaku guys, they also haven't shied away from giving them the proper demotions, even though in the past they would frequently under-demote by a rank or more, even when they didn't have to. In any case, Atami, probably 3 East, Chura, probably 3 West, Abi, probably 4 East. The biggest question here is likely between Chura and Abi. I'm not totally decided on this, but I'm just going to leave it like this for now with Chura ahead. Oshoma slots in very nicely at Maegashira 4 West, which I knew he was pretty good, but this is a hell of a performance. Kota Shoho, he was 7 and 8, so he's got to come down from 4 West, but we can bump him to 5 East and he gets some kind of a demotion. That's cool, that works. Now we have Tobizaru and Nishikigi who are tied. So now Nishikigi, he's going to get bumped up, so that's an over promotion. So now it's more likely the guy who is in the Joy gets a little bit of preference. And Tobizaru going to 5 West, dropping 4 ranks with a 5 and 10 record, that's completely normal. That's absolutely fine. No big deal there. And Nishikigi sliding over to 6 East with his unbelievable, oh hey, my body is working again, 11 and 4 record down at Maegashira 13. He goes up 7.5 on his 11 and 4. Hey, good for him. He had a hell of a basho. Endo gets bumped up an extra half rank with his 8 and 7, so he goes to 6 West. Takano Sho, he gets saved a rank with his 4 and 11, so he's at Maegashira 7. And now we have a couple of really interesting decisions to make. We've got 3 guys tied at Maegashira 9 West and 3 more guys tied at Maegashira 10 East. Fortunately, we've got a bunch of slots above them, so this gets a little bit easier to move them around, but let's play with some placements. Midori Fuji cannot go below Maegashira 8 West, so that's probably where he ends up. There is a possibility that they bump him behind, say, Takayasu so that he gets some kind of a demotion, but Takayasu's already going to get over promoted, so I don't think that's a good default consideration. Maybe they do it, but we'll leave Midori in place for the moment. If we put Gonoyama at Maegashira 7 West, he only goes down 1 rank on 6 and 9. And then Roga will go up 2.5 ranks on 8 and 7. This is perfectly normal. This is a perfectly plausible outcome. It's maybe probably what they'll do. But Roga has been doing pretty well. He could have done a little bit better. He didn't have the hardest matchups at the end of the tournament and couldn't win them. But still, he had his winning record, and Gonoyama was extremely disappointing. Roga being ahead of Gonoyama, very, very plausible, especially since neither of them was in the Joy. I've said this in several recent Banzuke videos. When neither guy is in that Joy, when neither guy is in that top 16 and getting all the Sanyaku opponents, they have been tending to prefer the guy with the winning record over the guy with the losing record in tie-breaking situations. So for the moment, let's put Roga ahead of Gonoyama. Similarly, Ichi Yamamoto, are they going to insist on demoting him? I'm not sure. If we just leave him at 9 East with his 7-8 record, which is totally plausible, then we could have Mitakayumi come down -7. We could have Takayasu go up 5.5 on his 10 and 5. This works. This makes enough sense. They could very easily do Takayasu and then Mitakayumi and then Ichi Yamamoto, specifically to make sure Ichi Yamamoto goes down a rank with his 7 and 8 record. This is a thing that they have been showing a desire to do. Make guys get that demotion if there's any way to make it happen. In this case, you've got 2 guys tied with Ichi. You don't have to put him at 9 East just because he was in the middle or whatever other logic you might want. They could also go in record order. Takayasu 10 and 5, then Ichi Yamamoto 7 and 8, then Mitakayumi 4 and 11. What I think is more likely to happen is Ichi's going to go to 10 East. I think that's just there. Now, does Mitakayumi get credit for being in the Joy and having that Sanyaku schedule and get put ahead of Takayasu, or does Takayasu end up ahead because he had the better record? I'm going to have to look things up a little bit. For the moment, I'm going to put Takayasu ahead of Mitakayumi. Takerufuji, old man rocking chair, 10 and 5, did not see this coming, to say the least. But good for him, he slots in very nicely at 10 West. He'll stick around for a little bit longer. Dude's gonna be in the division when he's 40. This is nuts. Tamawashi and Meisei, one of them's getting over demoted. Who's it gonna be? Genuinely not sure. It's gonna be not nice for either one of them. Now, if they didn't want to over-demote, what they've done in the past is do something like Meisei to 10 West, Tamawashi to 11 East, and Takerufuji to 11 West. Takerufuji gets under-promoted, but that was in the past the preference over demoting guys. Hasn't been what they've been doing of late, so we're just going to bump Meisei down. That 5-10 record might look pretty bad to the committee, and they have not shied away from dropping guys with bad records even farther than they're quote-unquote supposed to be dropped. So we'll put Meisei at 11 West. Probably, though, Tamawashi and Meisei are at Maegashira 11 in some order. Sada no Umi and Hokuto Fuji. Well, Hokuto Fuji was essentially 8 and 7, Sada no Umi was 7 and 8. Hokuto Fuji was injured, they're not going to take that into account. It's basically +1 versus -1. Who's going to go where? If they set things up like this, where Ichi Yamamoto goes down exactly 1, Tamawashi goes down exactly 1, I think that increases the odds that Sada no Umi goes down exactly 1, that he doesn't get over-demoted in favor of Hokuto Fuji. But bear in mind that these decisions are often made in a vacuum from each other, even when it doesn't make sense to do so. So they could do the -1, and then bump Sada no Umi back 1.5 and be like, yeah, that's fine. Hard to say. I mean, this is a 50-50, really. Chiyoshoma doesn't really matter here because he's coming up from Juryo, so he's going to get pushed back a little bit. We just got to figure out to where. Ryuden, +1 to Maegashira 13. Okay, that's fine. Shonen no Umi, there's space for him to go up to 13 West. He only goes down 8 with his god-awful 3-12 record. And now we've got to figure out where the Juryo guys go because we're running out of Maegashira guys to place. Onokatsu can't go higher than Maegashira 14 West. But we've got Chiyoshoma and Toki Hayate. Chiyoshoma, all right, so let's put him ahead of Onokatsu. But then does Toki go ahead of Onokatsu to make sure Onokatsu gets demoted? Chiyoshoma was a rank ahead of Toki, and he had a better record. So I think that might make them put Toki behind Onokatsu. It's not to do Onokatsu a favor. It's to put Toki in a place quote-unquote appropriate relative to Chiyoshoma. That's it. Of course, what they could also do is bump Nishiki Fuji, who miracled his ass to an 8 and 7 record, up to Maegashira 15 East, so that Toki Hayate ends up behind him, so that he gets bumped back. Nishiki Fuji, he was in Maegashira, so we give him a little bit of preference. And then Toki Hayate and Shishi, who were both 9 and 6 at Juryo 2, end up in a position next to each other. That would make a lot of sense. I wouldn't be surprised, no matter how they end up sorting this out, for Toki and Shishi to be next to each other regardless of anything else. Now I'm going to scroll up real quick. Couple things to keep in mind. In the last tournament, there were 9 guys in the Sanyaku, so the division has 42 people in it, so it went down to 17 East. Now there's only 8. So the division goes down to 17 West. Also, as you can see at the top here, we currently only have 40 out of 42 slots filled. So we're going to have to bring up 2 guys who currently are in Juryo mathematically to fill out the division. So who are those 2 guys likely to be? Well, it seems like it's going to have to be Asakoryu and Bushozan. So let's move Takerufuji up and move these guys up. Who else could it be? All of the other guys in the red had losing records, but were mathematically behind Bushozan. So if it's going to be any of them, it should be Bushozan. The other option is Hakuoho coming up from Juryo 5 West on 8 and 7. I know Kitanawaka coming up from Juryo 2 on 8 and or Juryo 3 on 8 and 7 was a little unusual, but also Bushozan only dropped to Juryo 2 mathematically. The other guys that Kitanawaka was chosen in front of were like Juryo 4 mathematically. So it seems pretty safe to say Bushozan is going to get saved. Now the only question is, to where does he get saved? Do they put Takerufuji at the bottom of the division, which is what they've been doing, or as far down as they can, because that's what they've been doing with guys who have been doing amazing and winning Yushos and getting 13, 14 wins, whatever, near the bottom of Juryo? I don't think so. I think at a minimum he ends up ahead of Asakoryu because Asakoryu was at Juryo 8, which is still pretty far down. Do they keep Bushozan ahead of them, or do they put Bushozan behind them? I genuinely don't know. By all rights, Bushozan should be behind them. They might put Takerufuji ahead of Bushozan because Takerufuji at least got into the division mathematically. I'm going to leave it like this. This is the thing that makes the most sense to me. Take the 40 guys who earned their way into Makuuchi, put them in the first 40 slots, and then put the other 2 guys that you're bringing up to fill it out in the bottom 2, and then sort them out. Because they've been putting low Juryo guys towards the bottom, I'll put Bushozan ahead of Asakoryu. This is the thing that makes the most sense to me. But throughout this division, there are a lot of, are they going to go this way? Are they going to go that way? I imagine there's going to be a decent amount of changes between this instant Banzuke and the Guess the Banzuke video we put out just before the actual Banzuke gets released. For now though, let's move on to Juryo and see what they're going to do there. Now as you can see, we've only got 24 out of 28 slots filled, so we're going to be dragging guys up from Makushita like crazy. For now, let's just start sorting these guys out. Kinbozan probably goes to Juryo 1 East, Kitanawaka to 1 West, Kageaki to 2 East, because they're all coming down from Maegashira and there's nobody in Juryo ahead of them. The next Maegashira guy is Shirokuma. Now he's 2 ranks behind Hakuoho. Are they going to put him ahead of Hakuoho? Maybe. This is what they could do. They could also do this. I really don't know. I don't think it matters that much. Because Hakuoho's already getting over promoted with his 8-7 record, I don't think they're going to be that kind to him. Let's just put all the Maegashira guys up in front and then start lining up the Juryo guys. Tamashoho, is he only going to go down a half a rank on 6 and 9? Yeah, he could. That's entirely plausible. I know last time they did 2 6 and 9s with no demotion. I just think that's not that likely this time. Shimano-umi and Kaio are tied. There's no reason to put Shimano-umi at Juryo 4 East. Push him to 4 West. Kaio goes to 4 East. Enormous promotion. Of course, he hurt his leg, so we'll see if he can keep it up. But hey, he had a great tournament. Good for him. Shiden cannot go above 6 West. Shimizu-umi, does he go to 5 East? Well, hey, they're half rank demoting all of these 6-win guys. Why not? Tomokaze to 5 West, 5.5 ranks with his 9 and 6. Hidenoumi, he was 6 East. Okay, well, Tohakuryu and Hidenoumi are tied, so let's put Tohakuryu at Juryo 6 East. Hidenoumi goes down 1 rank on his 6 and 9 record. They could even give Shiden a half rank on 7 and 8, but why would they do that? Like, it's an option, but it would be pretty messed up for them to give all these 6 and 9 records a half rank demotion and then force Shiden to take the same kind of demotion with an extra win under his belt. So we'll put Shiden in front and Hidenoumi at 7 East. Hakuyozan was 8 West. He cannot go above 8 West. Tsurugisho, another one who looks like he's going to only drop a half rank with 6 wins. Mitoryu looks like he's dropping a half rank with 6 wins. This is crazy. Fujiseun can only go down to 10 West. Dayamami, he was 5 East, 4 and 11. If he goes to Juryo 9, that's -4. That's pretty okay. Daishoho to 9 West. Holy cow. This was the tournament to finish 6 and 9. If you were ever going to do it, this was absolutely the time to do it because you are just luck boxing all day. Daiseisan stays at Juryo 12 East at 7 and 8. Onosho probably only goes down to Juryo 10 East under this configuration. Because all we got left now are Makushita guys or guys who were in Juryo and dropped way down. First of all, let's move the Makushita guys up a little bit further. So we've got Aonishiki, we've got Tochitaikai, we've got Chiyomaru. Is that exactly where they're going to end up? I'm not sure. But then we got Wakaikari, Koto Teibakari, and Nabatame. So the reason I put all of those guys ahead of Hatsuyama is because there's a thing called the Makushita promotion zone. It's generally considered to be ranks 1 through 5, and if you're in those ranks and you get a winning record, you'll be considered for promotion if there's a spot for you. Well, in this case, everybody in that zone who had a winning record, there's a spot for them, so they all go up. Now, guys who win the Yusho and Makushita from Makushita 15 and up will generally get promoted to Juryo. Hatsuyama was Makushita 16. That's a little bit too low. He'll probably go to Makushita 1. Except, who are the other options to go to Juryo 14 West? Well, they just showed last time that they're willing to not demote guys on 6 and 9 if they feel it appropriate. So Oshoumi probably has a better chance of staying in place than Hatsuyama does of taking that last spot. Before last tournament, it would have been unthinkable. It would have been, oh God, are they going to do this one thing that they never do or the other thing that they never do? I don't know. But you know what? Even though this is probably wrong, I'm going to put Aoyama there. 1.5 ranks down on 5 and 10 is hardly unheard of. It's rare, but it's not unheard of. It's certainly less unthinkable than moving a guy up to Juryo from Makushita 16 or giving a guy 0 demotion on 6 and 9, even taking last tournament into consideration. And it's Big Dan. Who doesn't want to see Big Dan get paid just a little bit more before he walks out and starts coaching? Odds are it's probably going to be Oshiwumi, but I would not discount the possibility that Aoyama ends up at Juryo 14 West and takes those knees out for one more spin on the dohyo. And that's our instant Banzuke for Aki 2024 going into Kyushu 2024. Lots of stuff to talk about. I'm not even going to point anything out to ask you, just get at it in the comments. I know you will. Say your piece. I want to hear what you're thinking. Other than that, look out for the new merch. We've got the tier list recap coming relatively soon, but for now it is time to rest. Let's just enjoy everything we just saw. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.